Welcome, everybody, to Mudflood was Armageddon, the 2025 edition. First time Mudflood was Armageddon. Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age past, Flat Earth King Jesus. It's all in play today. Welcoming the famous RJ. Randy from Wisconsin. How you doing, man?
Well, remaining optimistic. Yeah, hopefully this will be a happy new year. Not that I'm implying
It
anything
will.
in particular. We'll see. Be patient. Time will tell. Maybe.
Let
You know.
everybody rest assured that his blessings will be new every morning. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they
As
don't
far as
good.
the situation at hand varies. And depending on your address, where you are, uh, it certainly can
We all have
differ.
an address. We have a digital address now too, RJ. We've been everybody's
Well,
been
yeah,
hip
your
to that.
mobile address. Yeah.
Not going to forget about this. Going to be showing some videos, a lot of Bible study. It seems like a lot of tabs if anybody's looking ahead and at the top of the page there. Oops. You really have to be accurate with that mouse. Look at that, all of those tabs. But it's going to be easy. It's going to be fun. And we'll have to look at some of the early pictures I got here. Is this the, hey, look, RJ, did you know? Look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fabric and the wood from the Wright Flyer. They took it up to the moon. My son
It's really
presented
neat.
me with a flag that was flown over Kandahar, then taken into space. And we laughed about it later. So, Kitty Hawk to Tranquility Base. Are we going the right way? We're going to touch on Astoria. I mentioned John Jacob Astor. They wanted to make this town the New York of the West Coast. Astoria. The problem is the bay was exactly like San Francisco, but what I noticed is there's no mud flood buildings in this town. Everything here could have been built by a kit. Now that may have been, one or two that are big, but even though this is an extraordinary picture from the 1880s, I'm not seeing any obelisks. I'm not seeing any fountains, lighthouses in the water. That's doable for 1880. You could buy it from a kit and then they'd ship it all and you put it together. But it didn't work out. Didn't work out for those guys. We're going to get into Francis Bacon. Look, Lord provided this. Francis Bacon, founding father of America, the Rosicrucian Freemasonry Brotherhood. I looked them up, and secret author of Shakespeare. So, what is the reason for this 400-year-old secrecy? Well, I would say since there's going to be reset, and then at the, as the wheat and the tares were maturing, the tares weren't even caring about, they were planning for this future. So we got that coming up. Shakespeare. That thumbnail wanted it to be a grabber. It's not exactly what I wanted. Hey, look at this. Bill launched an environmental plan, and I maybe have this video pulled up, but technology to more efficient batteries at COP21. I didn't know it by that name, so I was looking up why Bill Gates is funding atmospheric change. And then, so here it is. Hey, 9/11, 2019. They had a National Academy of Science, Engineering, Medicine developing a research program, a research government approach for climate intervention that reflects sunlight to cool the earth. You ever hear of anything so gay?
Well, I've heard some strange, experiments.
And I'm using the gay like we'll have a gay old, like the Fred Flintstone, It's
Sure.
maybe. So they had this is yeah, there you go. They
Oh,
had
there's been plenty of climate intervention.
geoengineering. Yeah, they've been all over
Oh,
it. And I think I actually get into that. This is like been going on for a darn long time, RJ. How come you never told me? Oh, wait. This is like almost as one of well, my daughter looks like that. I would consider her maybe as plain as that, but she doesn't let herself be seen as plain as that. And that would be my daughter admiring, looking like, oh, what a cute Greta Thunberg. Did you ever hear that? I guess she was at the conference. I don't know.
oh, good for them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just got pictures and we're doing a show here. Geoengineering that causes disagreement, conflict, tension. Even, did I really pause it and get a couple of, so that there are great prospect that countries just go ahead. Oh, so at this point on the CNBC, they interviewing this, and this guy is so helpless, and he's there like, well, if the other countries aren't going to get on board, we're just going to go ahead and what? You going to do what?
Leave them in the dust.
Yeah. So I was looking at, here's the problems. How will it work? How much does it cost? Did the first experiment really come through like they wanted to? Is there going to be the mafia international, the gangs of all the countries that get together and go like, is this going to interfere with our heroin sales? And that's part of the ethical debate, and at least as far as I can figure it out. Trillions of particles. Scientists still need to decide what chemicals, should go into the $16 million. This is that first, they've been doing experiments long before August 2019, but as they're leaking it now, as they're letting it out, as it's like, so that they can prepare them for like, oh my goodness, some rogue mafia governments have been doing this all the time. Stratosphere.
Well, yeah, since World War II, certainly.
I guess they starting out with 5 pounds or something like that, almost 5 pounds. Perpetration experiment. I hope I can remember that, because all of this Scopex and everything else. Bill did it. Bill did it. It's these guys. Crow's Nest Foundation. The Crow's Nest was the name of the head shop in Joliet, Illinois in the 70s, where we would have to drive to if we wanted to get regular zigzag papers instead of those damn cigarette top. So this is how they do it. They said that they had some proof that Mount Pinatubo erupted. The next year it seemed cooler, so that if they can lay down this surface of aerosols in the atmosphere, everybody will be happy. You kind of do it right above the troposphere into the stratosphere. It would look something like this. Thousands of these planes would fly very high. I could see dozens of them above me every day. I don't know how many extrapolating from Alamosa that goes, but it probably equals thousands under the dome. Pretty big flat Earth. It really is. So you get fit thousands up there. CNBC's not afraid to put this out anymore. Is this 5 years old? 9 years old?
Yeah, it affects, a large area as well, not just where they're doing it, but it carries around.
yeah, those small little particles get blown around all under the dome. So this is from Chicago. This, I finally got a picture of one of those, they use,
Screw jacks. Yeah.
yeah, tens of thousands of them to lift whole city blocks and they would just get tens of thousands of men to do quarter turn at a time when they go like row, stroke, stroke. They don't say row. I think they go stroke. But you get one of those guys to do it. So this came up with Sean Munger, that his family is all a bunch of PhDs and super talking heads for the man. So this is from the other night when the CIA internal matter about the child molesting finders cult, their charges were dropped because it was a CIA internal matter. All right, so we got that.
Yeah.
Some extra big picture. So this is another one of those different, get a little closer look at this. But you still can't see any fountains in front of them. This is kind of a wide road, but it's just making a turn here. This is the top of a house. It's not a monument or anything. So I'm not seeing any of the telltale signs of the obelisk or something. That's a standpipe probably that would have come with the, well, that's another TIFF. How many of these do I have? Anyway, this is a big picture. Something Earth, some Terra. I know Terra Incognita, Hidden Lands. What do we got up here? Astrominium. Astronomium. That's a single-headed eagle. So this would have to be after Tartaria broke up. It became greater and lesser. We've been doing mostly focused on the Bible here, people, and I'm a little shaky on my breakup dates for lesser and greater Tartaria. You got anything on that, RJ? I don't. It's not jumping out at me.
Yeah, I'm not certain what that drawing or painting represents with the green heads coming out.
Yeah, they're just like alternating.
Yeah, and
lizards.
It's not like the bulls underneath that thing that Solomon made.
Yeah, with the 12 bulls, this is not that. So here's
I
that.
didn't count him.
Here's how that thing from the other night in Hurricane Andrew, people were going like, wow, isn't that weird that plywood went right through that palm tree and that they found a straw in tree, just weird things. That's a spoon that John Hutchinson, who now calls himself Joanne Hutchinson. So they put up a genius. They go like, he could do free energy. We should concentrate on the guy that likes to dress like a girl. I'm not saying that's having a gay old time because I don't even know what that means. Did we look at these close enough?
I don't. You may have. I don't recognize.
I was touching on 9/11 a little bit. I just threw it in there. It's like a big deal. It's like, this is a big deal dust, And I was all over it, RJ. Surface waves,
Yeah, for it to be pulverized.
Right. I didn't have a lot to talk about, so I went back to the well of what we know the best. Today, though, from last night after I did all that thing, I discovered this crappity doodah about this guy.
The British were also very interested in it. The British had long viewed the Pacific Northwest as a critical region for their own fur trading enterprises. The Hudson's Bay Company, a powerful and well-established organization.
That's a pretty cool map. That's the historic trading post. Everywhere in Canada was the Hudson Bay Company, like Rhode Island was the plantations of Plymouth and Rhode Island, you know.
Organization had already built an extensive network of trading posts across Canada and sought to expand its influence into the Columbia River Basin.
Do it.
Fort Vancouver, located on the north bank of the Columbia River near present-day Portland, Oregon, became the centerpiece of British operations in the region. The motivations behind the establishment of Fort Vancouver were not solely economic. The British sought to solidify their own claims to the region.
Is that a Columbia? No, that's not Columbia. Let's get a little more review on this.
This opening is framed by rugged cliffs and tidal currents, but the waters are generally calmer compared to the Columbia's entrance. And thus, the San Francisco Bay Area was able to accommodate a large port in ways the Columbia River Bar never could. So let's dive into the Columbia for a bit. The Columbia River is the prime artery of one of North America's longest river systems. From the Canadian Rockies through the arid plateaus of the Pacific Northwest and to the Pacific Ocean, it drains forces, creates an environment of turbulent waters and large, unpredictable waves. Mix that with a sandbar that is constantly shifting under the water, and you've got a recipe for disaster. And this disaster has struck time and time again, with nearly 2,000 ships meeting their fate in this region alone. Hence the nickname it has since acquired, the Graveyard of the Pacific. But that
Skull and crossbones. I don't want to pick it up right there. Here's a little bit more history you need to know. Where's that
River's mouth
boat
offered
trip? Here we go.
unparalleled access to the Pacific Ocean. The region's rugged terrain and narrow coastal strip left little room for expansion. More critically, the Columbia River Bar posed a significant challenge for maritime trade. At this point in time, Astoria would have been competing with San Francisco as the major port on the West Coast. But these natural obstacles made it difficult to establish a reliable and safe shipping hub, something San Francisco could provide. But this wasn't necessarily the only reason why Astoria didn't succeed. After all, Seattle did succeed. Instead, it would be the arrival of railroads in the 1800s to the region.
And we remember San Francisco had to be dug out a number of times. Seattle shares that we jacked up the whole town, scenario going with that town, Chicago, home, the Michael Jordan and all those famous Blues Brothers and the Dailies as the mayors for 40 years of my life.
That would ultimately crater Astoria's chances at becoming a major city. You see, railroad companies at the time were desperate to connect major settlements in the West with the eastern United States. Mostly because while the West was growing, the economic center of the country still sat
John Jacob Astor.
In the late 1800s was driven by factors distinct from those shaping Astoria and Portland.
I've seen a lot of it was too slow. I'm seeing a lot of the mud flood, pre-mud flood. Look at that. I wonder why, Seattle made it. And John Jacob Astor, well, I could just build a kit town. That doesn't work like that, JJ.
Hundreds was driven by factors distinct from those shaping Astoria and Portland. Seattle's location on the Puget Sound provided a sheltered, deep-water harbor ideal for
I guess the takeaway on that is the people in the Golden Age and then right directly, they had it better figured out that if Astoria would have been good, they would have done it there. They would have built those mud flood buildings there. RJ, talk me down. We're not. Hey, they made their column there in Astoria. Didn't grow that much.
Just some sort of spiral effect.
Yeah. And then they built, they could buy the fancy kit houses, but they didn't have, they got that. They got that there. Astoria High School. There's the county jail. That looks fake. They have a USS Astoria. That's the bridge they built. That's the house they found on a hill. They got a little electric pier going. Well, hey, they had John Jacob did spend some money, but they're claiming this, that, and the other thing. Still no big fountains, no obelisks. They built a tower late in the deal. This seemed interesting to me. A kit for canning. You know, you just buy it, put it out there. It's made of wood. You could do that in the 1880s. But that could feed a lot of people. There's that big tiff, another big tiff. I didn't want to get them all. The tower. That's really, oh, that's still, so there's more tower coming up. Here's the column. I bit like, why am I not seeing it? They're calling it a column. It's not the, Beaux Arts. It's not Art Deco. It's specifically not Art Deco. John Jacob Astor, he wanted to build the tower. Light it up at night, column dedicated, forest fire, first of the season, world notices in presentation, shaft to go public, go eastward tonight, whatever. So this is original murals on the side that spiral up as you walk up it's the same kind of a staircase design I used when I took my house that was built for meeting John Birch Society in the 1950s. I made their meeting room. I divided it into 2 bedrooms and a storage room and put this into what was a walk-in closet in the master bedroom. But I had it open into a hallway. Who cares about what I did with my old house? I was interested in columns and monumental type things in the United States. So I couldn't look them all up. I left out a couple of lame ones. And I think they left out, and I guess it's not a column if it's not a column, because San Jacinto Monument wasn't on there. So maybe I looked up San Jacinto first. Yep. And it falls under Art Deco sculpture. So that's next. I guess this is what they want us to believe they were busy about, is the work projects for the FDR. I visited this with Tommy from Texas, and Amy Bobamy brought me a half ounce of weed. It was so nice. And we went to the top and visited the museum and stuff. It looks fake. It looks so fake. And it's laid out like an eyeball also. And so really all they did was, a lot of the shale or whatever they used for this was falling off, and they fixed it up, and so this was all rebuilt. And I think these ships are, who knows? Isn't that an interesting view seen at sunrise? As the sun gets closer. Interesting. They laid it out like this on purpose and to rewrite their history. I just want people to be, if you're in the area, go see it. Check it out. Tell me if you think I'm wrong.
That'd be interesting to know, the date, the time of year from that vantage point to get, because, the sun travels quite a, north to south in half dozen months.
Is the sun like the earth falling backwards 1,000 miles an hour, or does it spin or does it not spin? The sun. What do they claim? I mean, I know it doesn't.
I would think it'd be much like the moon in that cents.
Somebody got really into like creative searching. Decorative Society of Decorative Painters. This is going to have something to do, I'm pretty sure, with what's going on here. Whatever you got going. Rose mantling, a Norwegian form of decorative arts. Is it Beaux Arts? Is it Art Deco? Code of Ethics. The Society of Decorative Painters offers a certification program. Okay. What's the history on these guys? Macedonia artist paints White House ornament. Anyway, this was also the name of some other group of the Society of Decorative Artists, or SAD. See, this is one the one I was looking for, the one they tried to misdirect me to. It was under Art Deco. Hence, all my like, I gotta show some Art Deco because that's the way Father does this. If I don't do it, how to somehow gonna reap what I sow. So why not do it? Just before World War I is there, hey, Art Decorative. Art Decorative. Here's some examples of Art Deco. That's the Chrysler Building, the quintessential. No, that's not the. Yeah, that is the Chrysler Building. See, those are those things where those crazy people, man, they had no fear, would balance on chairs. Models would walk out there and lay down and go, "Look at me, I'm on top of the world." It's kind of cool. I mean, it's not as bad as some. Yeah, that's not that cool. It does look like the Statue of Liberty. That's a big picture. What's this? Somebody broke it. Probably was a light there to shine on these guys. This is Art Deco. Oh, we are not looking at 302 pictures. I mean, we'll get the rough idea, but so it went from top to bottom. You know what I mean? And furnish it, the building with the style it was designed in. Was that an afterthought? Wow, this is like the Lake Zurich High School auditorium. We spent $16 million for the freaking arts auditorium. They were taxing my ass off. Cubist. That's not really Art Deco. It's not the same as that like hood ornament. So they kind of bleed them over. They're bleeding it all over, mixing it, but it's still Greek god stuff. It's weird. You got to go. So I looked them up and they took me on that other one from 1972. If you want to get certified, go to Hayesville, South Carolina, or Kansas. That's not that big of a town. Some examples of the towers in the United States. I couldn't get them all. So here's Hobart, Sintoff. In the United States, no, Australia. So these are worldwide ones. We're going to be looking at some worldwide Art Deco. All of these are Art Deco. Worldwide. 50 on this one. Where is the Coit Tower? San Francisco. They got a lot of weird stuff there. Let's face it. That's Star 40. That looks Star Fort, baby. You know, the picture says 1,000 words. 1,000 more there. How about that? Get a couple more. Well, these are inside it, I guess. from the observation tower. This is how we built some reset industrial revolution during Satan's season. Here's another one. The National War Memorial in South Australia. They say it has hints of Art Deco. Oh, yeah. Yep, I see it. Right there. Head hanging down, looking to the side, what up, you know, that whole thing. Interesting, these copper things. See that we're all seeing this for the first time here, people. It's nice. 28 pictures of it. Oh, yeah, that's totally Art Deco. Whoa, PG-13 Art Deco. Hey, don't get any ideas. Whoa, that guy had ideas, I could tell. So what I meant by, what's the difference between Astoria and this? These massive mudflood buildings. I think that's what most people, antique architecture. There's your construction photo. Quarries Limited did it. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Where are we going? National World War I. It's Art Deco. It's in Kansas City. They're going to Kansas City. Kansas City got a Sphinx. They don't have the crazy little women there anymore. They got the Sphinx. You gonna go get you one? I think I'm proving that this Art Deco is probably a scam, or just covering up. I mean, we're just bringing this recent reset deal. Who shows up in public like this, you know? This was a military fascist world ran by white people. I know people don't like to hear that. I don't like to say it. Here's a column of J-Rash. This was like, you got to be kidding me. The King of Jordan gave this to somebody in 1962. It was supposed to be bigger, but they sent one and they said you could keep it. Look at Canthus plant. Take one of our columns there. Quit leaning on us. We're already accepting Israel and not, you know, quit messing with me. So we'll take care of it. You can give it to us and we'll take care of it for the rest of time, or not, because we're busy. The United States can make promises. The problem is keeping them. So this was supposedly 2nd century AD, oldest thing in New York as far as monuments go, except the column of Cleopatra's Needle, another one that wasn't on the list. It's because I'm only looking Art Deco. Supposedly, this is how they got it to the United States. Do you think that they were praying for calm seas, RJ?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they put it on a scale? What does it weigh in at?
Ooh, that's a good question. We got to have some sort of a weight here. 200 tons. Wow, 220,000 pounds hanging right out there on the front. That's like bigger than the Hulk Hogan and those really big, strong, fat people that jerk and press that weight up. 500 pounds, easy, nothing. They just do it. Whereas I would break my back. Here's another one that's Art Deco. This is from the Canada, United States border, Buffalo, Lafayette Square. This honors the black people that were Buffalo soldiers, but they show not a Buffalo soldier. But it is to honor them. You can slap up a bronze. Look at those Buffalo soldiers. Why take a picture in the winter? See, what's the difference between Astoria and this town that gets these real towers in that fake concrete Astoria Tower. Niagara Square, Tesla's famous jumping off point where he never went to Chicago, but was able to supply its power and tell him how to build it from some mysterious unknown location. Lafayette Tower, Art Deco. Happy New Year to those people who buy into their dates like we really know what day it is. Sounds like RJ's having a party. So here's more.
Yeah, girls are down here.
They're gonna have their day, man. This is vacation time, man. When I was a kid, this was one of the happy times, right? Hey, a group of African American people in 1887 allowed to go and visit the Buffalo Soldier thing. They're in Buffalo, New York. More Art Deco. I've been to this one a number of times. Put in Bay was one of my favorite vacation spots to and from one of my mini trips to the what is that called? Where it's the big amusement park in the whole world, you know. And this is 400 feet tall or something like it. Whatever, it's way up there, man. It is so cool. And this is Art Deco. And that's Commodore Perry. I've not yet begun to fight. No, does he say that one? Yeah, he's the one where I haven't given up this. I'm not giving up this ship. Something like that. It is really cool to get up there. There's an elevator. I never walked it. Here's the Henry Clay. So a vague memory of him being famous for something like the Constitution. I don't know. RJ, I'm going to mute your microphone for a little bit.
Yeah, good idea.
Let's see here. So we got the Henry Clay Monument from 1910, just Art Deco, fitting right in. It is of the Doric order. Let's quickly go over that in just 1 second. For Henry Clay, he was for slavery, I think. I'm pretty sure this was not one of the good guys. So I do want to go over these Doric orders. It's the lowest order. There are 3 orders, and they all, you know, are on the columns from the Greeks, the Etruscans. It's the same thing, and they do have some composites. Here's your how to define a Doric order. It's just plain, and then it could be somewhat advanced Ionic order. See, it's on a flat opening up of a book is what I think it's supposed to mean, the Volti. And then the Corinthian order, which is basically your full canthus plant capital, you know, your top. It's that what's described that Solomon put on top of his, 5 cubits high. And the Etruscan are just late Roman, and they just skipped the Ionic. They went from Doric here. It's the same basic thing. So that's the classical Greek order. This classical Greek, you know, it's the same thing. Intellectuals down to your peasants. And they had it all figured out. Your social theorists have worked it out. And we all, you know, we all live under their social contract rules of the Leviathan. And I'm saying that's no good. So there is a Art Deco in New York City. It's called the Columbus. And I'm sure There are some better pictures of it, but 1892, early Art Deco. Prison Ship Martyrs Monument. Now, I mentioned the prison ships very recently. It was either last night or the day before, where I was saying they were golden age sailing ships. I think they could have used diesel or whatever they wanted, but they just did sailing because it was efficient and it worked and it didn't hurt. You know, they were not into screw the earth. Let's just forget all that. Prison ship monument. So I'm going to show you those prison ships, but first I wanted to show you the Art Deco monument to them. This is a swastika. Do you see that on the left where my mouse is? All their meanders are basically versions of swastikas. Put that in the file of your synapse. Don't take it out. Well, never mind. You can't take it out. Prison ship. Is that one of the eagles that stood at the base of the column until somebody said, hey, that looked good in my basement? That's how it looked in situ. That looks vaguely familiar. Prisoners of the Revolutionary War. I'm just looking for prison ship as a link to those to show you where the Daughters of the American Revolution. Suspicious. It's all like a rewriting history, like the Tammany Hall Society, of how you get, you know, an underground organization of Irish people in a country that was persecuting them to grow and grow and grow and end up being in charge. It's a Columbian order. It's Roman Catholic, people. Wow, there is a lot under this memorial thing. Sculpture. Un momento. Prison hulks were decommissioned ships that authorities used as floating prisons in the 1700s. This is where tens of thousands of people were starved because they couldn't build a good enough fort to hold their prisoners in. These ship of the lines were from the 1600s. And they were made to last because that would have been before the reaping. After the 1,000 years, put in your sickle and reap. That's after this, the tens of thousands were the start of the people that the very remnant left on the earth that ended up being orphan trained and messed with. So I do believe that I'm really on solid ground here. RJ, what do you think of that so far, RJ? That those prison things.
I still have distractions here. Yeah, what you were showing and what you were commenting. Yeah, it's
intriguing. Yeah, I'm going to keep going with it then. Here we go. So here, here's another one of those victory ships. Right. I don't think that they were doing this. They were using it as prisoners because it was one of the few things that lasted. And they did it for decades. They used these prisons. I should confirm that. So they're I don't have time to go through that. Wow, they are big. That's big, man. They had a bunch of them. Look at that. This. What's the difference? They didn't row them. They rowed them back in the Greek times and stuff. But mercy, Baku. Thank you very much for whatever we got going on here. So there's that prison ship, but I had this other thing in my mind about these columns and stuff. So many times I've shown these things in the rivers of the Colorado to RJ, just they're in the middle of nowhere, everywhere. You know, used to be a bridge here. People would say, "Where did we?" Oh, okay, right. When? Well, before when we took over the Native Americans, but he got himself a tower. At least they named it after him. There's got to be one here from Wisconsin or something. No, this is Boston. Column, not a tower. The towers that we'll be looking at are different, kind of the same, but they'll be Art Deco. Towers are Art Deco. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Now this is a monument, Sailor and Sour, not a column. Art Deco should be soldiers and sailors, memorials. Look at that. That truck looks like it's from the late 70s, maybe early 80s. Kind of a Columbia looking thing. There you go. And the caissons go rolling along. Calvary Corner. Lancaster. Cleveland, back to a round one. Art Deco and round. Look what we did in the Art Deco times. Sure. Okay. I like it. It's been around for a while. Civil War. They could build it to last. Levi Schofield. Wow, that's a good picture. Baltimore, Art Deco. Is that part of it? The Art Deco skipping in the water there? Got some sort of a big statue on top. It's been around since the 1890, it looks like. Oh, it's George Washington on top. Way to go, Baltimore. Way to brown nose to the the apotheosis of George Washington. The 9 capitals, where would we be without these Corinthian columns that they say they just put up because Washington needed them as a tourist place? Capitals, we just went over those. The ones in the Bible, they had pine cones and pomegranates, flowers. Oops. There's one of the missing columns. They'd put it up, I'm sure, if it wasn't so cost prohibitive. Yorktown Victory in Virginia. Come to America. One eagle. Destiny. And the people are amazed. Look what we used to do in our wonderful country. It's also Art Deco, cornucopian. Where's the fascist things? Well, they did that too. One country, one destiny, and that's how you build it or paint it, something. Anyway, they were doing something. The Yorktown, celebrate the victories that we win. Anyway, the Shakespeare Code, could it really lead to the Giza pyramids? I must have thought so, because I was really persistent. So I probably said, you know what, I might as well watch it on YouTube because I already disclaimed it.
5 and 6, which again can be found in Khafre. But the groundbreaking, comprehensive new system unveiled in Part 4 reveals some surprises involving other pyramids heretofore unsuspected of being connected to the Giza Plateau. So for now, their identities must wait. The system will also explain the remaining mirrored pairs, the major second and minor seventh, the minor second, all the way up the keyboard.
Holy grail of geometry.
Having successfully employed the first two, we turn our attention now to the third subject. But to do that, we must first take a look at some of the math behind musical theory. But don't worry, we're going to cover only the barest minimum required for our present purposes. Essentially, the Pythagorean...
This guy has been...
pyramid cross-sections are revealed, along with an exact geometrical match of the Earth-Moon pyramid relationship. Da Vinci states explicitly.
This is what I'm laying the groundwork for the Rosicrucian connection and John Dee to the Shakespeare and the King James version of the Bible, that they set those codes in it to take people to globe Earth through Copernicus, Galileo, and that whole crew. So I think it's pretty cool so far.
And the backwards mirrored text surrounding his image, that its proportions are exact integer ratios of the whole man. And he's cut his man in 14 places, clearly identifying those proportions. In addition, he says decrease the height of man by 1/14, a second veiled.
You're not sharing, Alan.
Dang it. I have to go back to where I started then. I forgot to click back on the thing.
The Earth and Moon. But Green realized that by inscribing a circle within Da Vinci's square and raising that circle so its center coincides with the center of the Vitruvian Man circle at the navel, 6 perfect pyramid cross-sections are revealed, along with
Listen
an
to that
exact
music.
geometrical match of the Earth-Moon pyramid relationship.
I don't know. You could just read it, or I'll read it. But the idea is I'm trying to not get too much of their audio, and this is all tying into, you know, this guy believes John Dee wrote Shakespeare. He wrote the King James, and that basically John Dee helped found the United States of America. And they have, how long, all of my life, they've had people wonder, you got to go to the pyramid, got to go to the pyramid in what they call Egypt.
Telling us the Great Pyramid hides a deeper esoteric symbolism than has ever been suspected. a blueprint of man's unfolding spiritual journey through the sacred energy centers in the spine, known as the chakras.
I don't think I could prove it any harder. What is the Rosicrucianism? Early modern, late 1600s, early 1600s. You know, that's what hey, a new esoteric form of Christianity came out. And they put it into Shakespeare. They put it in the King James so that they could point to globe Earth. It's 2025 today, RJ. We're doing this. We're showing it. We're proving it. We're staying with the same thing. It's been almost a decade that the Lord revealed this, or he did not. He had to have. I am a warehouse manager, volleyball coach, basketball coach, but I've been the Lord's Paco all my life. John D did it. These guys did it. You know, they started it. They were trying to find hidden knowledge and place it in the Bible. And this continues until today. You know, welcome. These guys brought this to America. And it just kept branching off to the present. Claims not to be a messianic order, but they lie. Everything was leading to the deception that you need to not only say, I'm leaning that way, and just jump on it and go, this is what they've done to us. 1676, first printed pamphlet referencing accepted Masons, also shows another connection between the Rosicrucian order and Freemason, to give notice that the modern green ribboned cabal, together with the ancient brotherhood of the Rosy Cross, the Hermetic Adept, and the company of the accepted Masons, intend all to dine together on Halloween, or Day of the Dead, whatever you want to call it, the next day after. And it's these guys. They've been connected. They are connected. This is a plan of the new ABCs. Anything but Christ. Anything but God.
Yeah, there is no 31st of November is what I was getting at. Whatever that.
Good one.
Nonsense.
Good catch, man. That's right.
You know, so that's, I don't know what they're doing there.
Yeah, they did it. So here's a little pickup on where I screenshot this, how Francis Bacon, founding father of America, the Rosicrucian Freemasonry, the Lord put this out 10 hours ago, and I would have to believe it's, so I would have something to tie it all in, the Art Deco and America and everything. You know, it's how it works. Or,
as the most important,
you know what, I plan all this myself.
The spiritual, philosophical, and political life of the most powerful Republican democratic nation in the Western world, strategically presented as having been written by a man of the people, William Shakespeare. The beginning of the 17th century was the period of the Great Expansion into North America, secretly directed by Francis Bacon and his Rosicrucian Freemasonic Brotherhood.
Francis Bacon.
To forever change the future direction of the modern world. Several earlier attempts at establishing an English settlement in America had run into difficulties, and though the distance The identity of the
Oh,
original
it's a
founding father of the
plantation,
United
see?
States of America, Francis Bacon, has been carefully concealed from the conventional pages of history and the pages of his orthodox editors and biographers. But it was certainly known to Alexander Brown, who cryptically reveals it to us in the Genesis of the United States. The first page of his preface, which sits immediately above the passage quoted earlier, very deliberately produces the following apposite words from Lord Bacon. Anarchy reigned, with the whole colony on the point of collapse. News began to reach England that some of the key figures had been lost at sea, and the circumstances at Jamestown were dire. In an attempt to allay the growing disquiet and raise much-needed funds, the Virginia
Oh,
Council.
they did it.
The Tempest is a special play that offers
Good.
the managing and direction of all matters concerning government and the colonies.
What?
The second charter
13
has successors,
unnamed
and that it shall
members.
have the superior managing and direction of all matters concerning government. And
What was that invisible Solomon's house that they governed? What's that?
Yeah, I don't know. The Virginia Council in England comprised 13 unnamed members. Now, Virginia is in the United States. Of course, Virginia, that's that whole Maryland deal with the District of Columbia. Oh, man. So they like that number 13, that's for sure.
The second charter, issued in 1609, lists a large number of shareholders.
Wow. So they did it. And, you know, we still have to have a Bible study here and stuff. So stratospheric aerosol injection, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, global dimming. The council here proposed a method of solar geoengineering to reduce global warming. This would introduce aerosols into the stratosphere. Hopefully, you know, we banned aerosols because they put, that was needed at the time, but you got to prevent a volcanic winter, RJ. So this is real. We're right here, man. Since 2024, they've been revising the crap out of this article here. Wow, it's pretty much brand new. So the introduction of this was March 5th, 2024. And then they've revised it a number of times. Huh. So here we go. Here's what they got going here. This is their deal. The black triangle. They got a 10-year federal acid rain assessment starting in 1979. And sulfur dioxide in the world. Note that sulfur dioxide moves through the atmosphere with prevailing winds, and thus local sulfur dioxide distributions vary day to day with weather patterns seasonally. But in the meantime, they've been dimming the crap out of this area in the United States and China. I wonder if that's smog. Who knows? That's an interesting volcanic eruption, Mount Pinatubo. It was cooler the next year, so they're on board. They should do it. And they're doing it. And they cannot try to deny it. And they even have, there's that massive ship that ended up being a prison ship because of a dramatic sunset caused by volcanic aerosols. You know what sounds like aerosols, but is not? Arousal. Not sexual arousal, just arousal. Physiological and psychological state of being awoke. And people do that to you on purpose if they know how, because mindfulness, they can tell you about your brain and your endocrine system, thalamus, dopamine, serotonin. They don't know how it works. They don't have to know how it works. They know it affects the mood, your cognition, and they want to arouse in people certain arousals. They keep taking it back to sex, though, and thinking, Johnson and Johnson, here it is. Here's that inside the brain, your rainbow wheel of emotions. So it's all planned. And in the Bible, it talks about how, your psyche is in your mind, your ego is in your mind. You're going to be, everybody's different. Everybody's different. And this is part of it, is abnormally increased behavioral arousal. This is caused by a withdrawal from alcohol or barbiturates or encephalitis, something that you get from, they claim you can get it from mosquitoes. Head trauma that has resulted in a coma, partial seizures, epilepsy, and it involves, of course, your hypothalamus. I believe we've talked about the amygdala often, and we will again. So here's a Bible verse. First Bible verse of the day, RJ, we're going to dip into the Mysterion. And somebody was going to make known the mysteries of the kingdom. Pretty common consensus there, that there is a Mysterion. Now, I don't know why it says the secret of initiation is necessary, unless they consider baptism a initiation or something back in the day when they needed to, But we do have it, and it's only used not that often. The mysteries, revelation of the mysteries which have been kept secret. All right. So it's a testimony. 2 Corinthians 2:1, that mystery is, for it is you, the mystery of God, the testimony of God. We're going to have to, did I look up Corinthians? We're going to. And I, when I came to you, brothers, did not come to you proclaiming to you the mystery of God with lofty speech and wisdom. So we know that should be mystery. It says some manuscripts say mystery. Mm-hmm. And the ESV was supposed to be so faithful to the. That's why I changed from. Oh, I'm glad that something came out besides the Living Bible and King James, and so I was all over the ESV right when it came out. Plus, Dr. Van Gammerman, one of the elders of our church, was on the Hebrew Review Board. So, I mean, our church bought them. Martyrdom. I was kind of looking. So, testimony isn't mystery unless martyrdom is somehow associated with mysterion. Interesting. A lot of words to go over.
Yeah, I need to cut out. You're at 70-minute now. But
Okay,
yeah, we got to get going.
I want to thank you, brother, and because I got to wrap. I've got to keep going on this. I got a bunch more Bible to get through. Thank you. Love you like a rock, and can't wait to see you again. So let's keep going with the. Make sure there's our RJ here. I'm glad I double checked, or I wouldn't have been sharing. So it does say it is associated somewhat with 346, that it is a mysterion. It is the root of the English term mystery. Okay. I get it. Let's go. So that it should be finished 2 out of 28 times, 5055 in Strong's Greek, because in them the wrath of God is finished. It is completed. It is filled up. They've been filled up in Revelation 15:1. That it should be finished. That also the mystery should be finished. So finish means, does finish mean finished? Looks like it. Intended goal. It's reached its intended goal or conclusion. Did I look that up? I'm going to not take a chance. Let's look at it in the Berean Standard. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he begins to sound his trumpet, that mystery of God will be fulfilled, as he proclaimed to his servants, the prophets. Give me the scroll, take and eat. Prophecy is about many peoples and nations, tongues and tribes. Did I open up the wrong thing? Well, I guess we're not going to look up that 1 in 10. So this one is consider, counted, to be reckoned, logic. This is one from the other night. He was numbered. Consider, be reckoned, regarded, but do you suppose? We conclude, and it was credited him. Para sharpen, be provoked. I think that this was a lot like arouse, and I wanted to bring that back. So Paul's spirit, your spirit can be provoked, stirred up, aroused, and that's what I'm trying to do, to get you on board fully with enough research. Is the golden age past? This is the short season. Where's the best place to ride it out? So that you're going to be, doing this on your own, thinking of it. So we understand that in Acts 17, Paul was in Athens, and he's walking around the town, and he sees all their gods, one to an unknown God, and he's invited to speak at the Acropolis. So he goes there, and spirit was provoked to say, let me, well, you guys probably know that one. You probably know that. This is the one we want to look at. 13:5. It is not so here's the spirit that's in us. It's not rude, is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no account of wrongs. Love takes no pleasure in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things in the Bible. Love never fails. But their prophecies, they will cease. The tongues, they were really, really restrained. And where there is knowledge, it will be dismissed. For what they knew then in part, and they prophesy in part. But when Jesus comes back and the partial passes away, now we all have our faith remaining, our hope, and God has placed in our heart that He is love.
Direct the sewage into the Thames, but farther down, away from the delicate nostrils of rich men and members of parliament in the central city. When initially proposed, Bazalgette's project didn't have the support it needed to pass the legislature.
That Bazalgette is actually Baziddgille. Bazalgette is the last name, France.
In 1858, though, there was a new government at Westminster, headed by Lord Derby and Benjamin Disraeli.
Wow, so Benjamin Disraeli, part of the big stink, part of the, you've got to live in the cities because we need you to work in the cities. Who is this guy? Benjamin Disraeli. Who's Joseph Bazalgette? Oh, he's the civil engineer that did everything. Bazalgette. The great stink. We've all heard about it. We all know that's what's coming to the city when they shut it down. And this is what's going to happen. It's the water, it's the air, it's the harassing fatigue. They lived through it. They had the Enabling Act so they could close off the sewers, all thanks to that big change in the government to where, because of Benjamin Disraeli and the big stink, they got an excuse for this now. Yeah, because Bazalgette, every year he could just say, yeah, I capped off this, I capped off that. I had my guys do it without any corruption at all. Ta-da! Little embellishment of his work on one of his other projects. All in 1958, because finally they had a new premier, Disraeli. Sounds Disraeli-esque. So there he is. That's the guy, man. He's the head of Great Britain's Parliament. Look at, there's a picture of him by one of the most famous painters of the time in 1952, not even 1958. He was on his way up. There's another picture of him as he got older. He was just, or somebody. Anyway, there he is, the Disraeli family friends. Lady Londonderry? There, he knew everybody. Gladstone, Cecil, Disraeli. What is the big takeaway around? So he was very popular among the British voters, but he is, to this day, the only British prime minister to have been born Jewish. But his father became an Anglican when Benjamin Disraeli was 12. So they joined the other church, the Anglican church. And that's the English version of Catholicism. You know, they believe Anglicanism was called Anglicanism because they couldn't call it Roman Catholicism. And he got down on the corn laws. He got into the Eastern question, the slow decay of the Ottoman Empire. The dude set up Zionism, man. Of course, he had some ancestors like that, but nobody cared. And then he backed up to say, you know what, he went against his party and said, Jewish people should be allowed to run for political office. We've got to stop this. And so he survived that. But big part of secret societies, I believe, Rosicrucianism, that's what I think. And that, you know, with his decades in power, he was right there behind the scenes to do whatever they needed. Let's go through some more BIBLE because we know how this got set up. We know we got to come out from among her. We know we got to be separate. Saints means being separated for God. Saints means being holy. Holy means separated to God. So let's start with, let's see, Joseph of Arimathea, good man, member of the council, went to Pilate, asked for the body. It was, you know, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. He said this, you know, today you will be with me in paradise. This is the King of the Jews. Luke 22:69. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God. At the right hand of the power of God. Now, the power of God is everywhere all the time. God is a spirit. We'll remember that. Luke 23:29. Look, the days are coming when people will say, blessed are the barren woman, the womb that never bore, the breasts that never nursed. Why would they say that? Look at my hands, my feet. It is I myself. Touch me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have. I'm looking at the word hapusos. High place, exaltation. It could be heaven, the highest eminence of praise, of dignity, or the highest mountain. Some of the sun is on high. You will be clothed with a power from on high. Luke 24. To know God's love, to know his length and height and depth. We'll look at that right now. verse 17, the second half goes, then you, being rooted and grounded in the love previously mentioned, will have dunamis, power, together with all the separated holy ones, the ones who are called, chosen, and faithful. Saints means separated and holy for God, to comprehend the length and width, height, and depth of the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. And I know some of you go, no, saints can mean different things. There's going to be different saints. In Revelation 20, those saints live 1,000 years. No, they don't. All saints are the same thing. There's no different saints. Out of the 235 times, there's only people that are separated because they want to be set apart for God. This is the same saints in Revelation, prophets and the saints, delivered unto the saints, ministered to the saints. But saints as a word, set apart for God, holy, sacred. We came out from the awful thing. It's set apart for a purpose. There's never is a different group of saints that, oh, saints could mean now they're going to live for 1,000 years. It's just another thing. It means holy. To set apart. Something was set apart. Clothed with the power from on high. And what is from the east anyway? The sun comes from the east, or wise men arrived from the east. And east means rising. It means branch. East means dawn. And east means east. To rise up, to spring up, to be up, primarily refers to the act of rising. We know they're not trying to help. The context of celestial bodies like the sun, often used metaphorically to denote the east as the direction of what they call sunrise, symbolizing a new beginning. So lightning always comes from the east and flashes. And Luke 1 verse 78, whereby the day spring, whereby the 8. Because of the tender mercies of God, by which the dawn will visit us from on high, to shine on those who live in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the path of peace. So they have the on high, the sunrise. It just says, will visit us, sunrise, light from on high, not the sunrise. I can't, they think we'll never, his star was in the east. So that's definitely something. And so we look at it, it comes from the east. And what does it mean? It has risen. I make to rise. That's pretty close to that 395 that we just closed down. Upon them a light dawned, it sprung up. For he causes the sun to shine on the evil and the good. The sun was up, it scorched. Should arise. And how will you put on that righteousness? When you need to put on a wedding garment, or you're not going to be allowed in. How does that happen? Where does that come from? How did I end up here? Something you will put on, you will put on. So I must have been looking up. Luke 24:49. And behold, I am sending you the promise of my Father upon you, but remain in the city until something has come upon you with a power from on high, that you should be clothed with that dynamic power. So it's in Matthew and Mark. He said, and also this is how you get dressed. Don't put on 2 tunics, take 2 swords, or so. There was a different time for different things. Let's look at this word. To put on, to clothe, to be dressed. Put on clothing, to be clothed. So we're going to be clothed from on high. And we have to believe that we are. We have to believe. John 6. So the Jews grumbled about him because he said, I am the bread that came down from heaven. They said, is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? Well, Joseph is referred to as not the carpenter, the architect. The, as in the guy like Tubal-Cain. He was that guy. And we do know that Mary, when she was planning weddings for people, she could invite the governor. And she expected it to go off without a hitch, to the point of his first miracle was, can you help me out, son? I'm looking for some wine. Oh, woman, I'll do it. Verse 44, no one can come to Jesus unless a throne who sent me draws him. And do you know how he draws him? Like somebody draws water out of a well. Drag, pull, draw, persuade. Sometimes kicking and screaming, they come to Jesus because they don't have a choice. You're going to draw all the elect called chosen to him. It's the same thing. A sword doesn't draw itself. A sword doesn't decide, I'm going to pull myself out of being dead, because you weren't found sick in your sin. You were not found sick in your sin. How did they get Paul and Silas to the marketplace? The same way you came to the Lord Jesus Christ. My Father. He doesn't say, my Father, Jesus Christ Senior, Pater, Patron. It's used with this, with a capital F. When, it's obviously talking about the Father. God is called Father of the stars, the heavenly luminaries, because he is their creator. James 1:17. Did I look up James 1:17? I know I was reading it. Give me 1 second to scroll down to James. It's right here. Yes. Came down from the Father of lights. Coming down. And the reason I wanted to show this one is that this is it's plural. And I can't run away from this. Oh, there is a word in the Greek that means in place of his father Herod, and Zebedee and their father. So if it's the father of many people, so when it's used in that case, it's including people like me, adopted sons of big. Lord is my adopted big brother, the one that somehow manifests in the flesh. And this is the word for it. And the word for father isn't a name. It's his title. He's the oldest. He's the senior. He's the first. He's the nourisher. He's the upholder. It is, what do we know? What do we really know? Let's go to chapter 4. Let's go to verse 34. What do we really know? Oh, it's 24. God, Spirit God, the Spirit God, those worshiping him in that same spirit and truth, because it behooves us to worship him. But we got a spirit. We got God as spirit. The original deal was all spirit. And then something happened in heaven. Let's look at 1 John. Okay. God came to earth so that he might destroy the works of the devil. The devil has been sinning from the beginning, the adversary, Diablos. He's been sinning from the beginning, and this is the reason. This was revealed. This is why the Son the only begotten came to earth. This is why there is an earth, more than likely a physicalness, because there was a creation, a couple of voided ones, it looks like. And this was all done because something that Satan thought he deserved to be worshiped, and that he could do what God did. And so God made this in from the beginning to where there's going to be a new heaven, new earth for physicalities like ourselves. And we're somehow, some will be judging spirit angels, which is why, in the near future, we're going to get into a study on demonology and going through that. When they cast out a demon, Jesus forbade them to speak. That's not a parasite. Parasites are weird. They're unhealthy as all get out, but we have to start being the realistic. There's words for saints. There's words for demons. The Nephilim weren't demon clowns. A lot of weird clown-like things in the world, but it doesn't mean they were demons. They surely weren't the giants, Nephilims, that David kicked their ass, Abraham kicked their ass, Joshua kicked all the Anakim, Nephilim, Rephraim's asses, because they were Gibborim. Joshua had mighty men. David had mighty men. It's good to be a mighty man. You want to be a Gibborim. Wherever you are on this flat earth, with its golden age past, because the Mudflood was Armageddon. Then there was the reaping, and your orphan-trained crowd living through something that started in 9/11, and if you're interested, ends in 2046. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Asete. Nakme.